Hey everybody, Dan with Staffing Monthly, and I'm excited to share with you a new software that will absolutely be a blessing to your recruiters. And I'm actually really proud to welcome my co-founder of VisiBull.App, Steve Popovich, here with us today. And we're just going to share with you a little bit about VisiBull, what it is. But Steve, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Dan?
Man, I am fantastic. I'm excited for this day. So for you watching this, just a little bit of backstory about what VisiBull actually is. This is a software designed to solve what I see as a very common problem in the staffing industry. So if you are in staffing and recruiting and you are faced with more job orders than candidates, or you have found it frustrating or you struggle to fill all of your orders, and maybe you find it a tad annoying that we've lost the ability to really optimize Facebook jobs recently, or you find it frustrating that Indeed is going to be suppressing many of our listings and kind of downgrading the viewability of our jobs. And it's only going to get harder to fill your job orders. If you find that frustrating, hopefully you find VisiBull refreshing, because we built it to solve some of those problems. And ultimately what it's designed to do is it's designed to be a process automation to get you more candidates out of your database while improving the client and candidate experience along the way. So with that, I just want to actually chat with you, Steve, and talk about what VisiBull is, how it works, and get our users or our viewers here a feel for what it is and see if it's maybe a good tool for them.
Okay, sounds good. So,
All right, so let me ask you this question then. So ultimately, VisiBull is an application, but who is it for? How does it work in a nutshell?
so in a nutshell, VisiBull is a tool that recruiters can use to help automate a lot of the processes that one would undergo when receiving a job order from one of your clients. I've come to find that Bullhorn is very extensive and robust, and you can do a lot of things inside of it, but those lot of things that you can do require a lot of clicks. So
Mhm.
Visual kind of helps condense the amount of time it takes to bring you through the full sourcing and reviewing and gauging interest process. So when a job is posted through Visible, it'll automatically connect to your ATS to log the order from the client it was sent by, the information associated with the job, whether it be pay rate, start date, quantity of workers requested, and then it will search everybody in your database. It would even tap into some passive talent that might not necessarily be at the top in an extensive, list, and vet their resumes based on keywords that are entered to see if they qualify as a match. If they do qualify as a match, these people will receive a notification via email and text. If they don't toggle them off, they have the ability to choose that there's a potential match in an opportunity in which they can express interest in the visible dashboard saying, I'm interested in a position like this, or I'm not. Then your recruiter can return to the entire list of people identified as qualified, see if they responded, and if they did, how they responded. And this will shorten the list of people that you'll be giving a thorough review prior to sending to your client.
So I know it's awesome because I've been there every step of the way, but even just hearing you explain it like that sounds pretty cool. And hopefully if you're watching this, you agree with that. But let me just break it down each step of the way. So right now, a common process in staffing is you get a job order from a client, and it could come in via phone call, it could be an email, it could be text message, could be a request an employee via some portal. There's a lot of different ways that a client can request a job order and a recruiter gets it. And normally, not using VisiBull, they would go into Bullhorn, they would create the job within Bullhorn, they would create the search string, and then they would launch a search. And that's going to create a long list of candidates, maybe in the thousands if you've got a huge database, if you've been doing this a long time. And then you basically got to do one of two things. You either start looking through that list at individual candidates to see who you want to call, which could take a long time, and truthfully it's not the path of least resistance, so a lot of recruiters don't do that. That's why they overly rely on job board responses. Or they could just mass click the entire list and then compose an email within Bullhorn, click send to send that out, and then do the same thing to send out a message. And then those people would start, saying, hey, I'm interested. And then the recruiter would then have to keep track of every person that's responded, and then update their status based on what they're finding manually. And then once they create, then they can create their short list however they do it. So that's the standard process that we've all kind of grown accustomed to if you're using Bullhorn. And what VisiBull does, just to make sure that I'm understanding it and explaining it back for our viewers, is instead of all that, there's literally a simple form that resides outside of Bullhorn. It's just like a job order form, kind of like filling out an Indeed or a ZipRecruiter, where they're just going to put in the position title and the pay and quantity and start date and key skills, and they can, you know, copy and paste job description, whatever. They can do all that just like posting a job and click submit, and it will automatically create everything in Bullhorn and automatically attach the job to the right client and automatically do that, create the search for them and find all the candidates that meet the criteria and automatically text message them and automatically email them with a link for those candidates just to go review the job details to see if they're interested. And once the candidate says, yes, I'm interested, it automatically shortlists them with by updating the status code. So when the recruiter jumps back into Bullhorn, they can just see a short list of those people that are actually met the quality check of the search and also the interested check of saying, yes, I'm interested in this. So they can start their process there.
That is right, Dan. That is right. You nailed it.
I feel like that's going to save a lot of time. You know, have you done any time studies on this? I know you've done all the testing. You've basically orchestrated or architected the entire build of this thing. Have you done any time tests to see how long it takes to actually post a job to start getting messages out to people and any of that?
I don't think I've aggregated enough data to give you like an exact average, but I would say with the information present, knowing what you're going to post, it's definitely sub 1 minute.
Really?
I
That's
guess it
fast.
depends how quick you are to type.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So what about, I know we wanted to do this, the main three problems that we were trying to solve are how do you get more candidates to the agency? And we recognized that more than 80% of agencies are relying on responses from job boards versus candidates in their own database, regardless if those candidates are already in their database. So they're almost paying for them again to get them to apply when they already have access to. So we want to solve that problem to help agencies fill more jobs. And that's why the automation's just out of the box, off the shelf, no custom configurations. They just do that. Yep. But we also wanted to solve improving the candidate and client experience to make sure that candidates feel more engaged, that they feel like there's something special about working with one agency. So let's just talk about the candidate experience for now. So if you are a candidate of a staffing agency that uses VisiBull, what is that experience like? What can the candidate expect to experience with an agency that's using VisiBull?
So once VisiBull is installed within your Bullhorn environment, all of your candidates will receive login credentials to your own branded VisiBull dashboard. So for example, an agency like Vital Staffing will have their own subdomain, vitalstaffing.visibull.app. It'll have their logo present, and then the respective candidates who seek work opportunities through this agency can log in directly. Once they're in this portal, all the job opportunities that they were deemed a match for will be presented to them in a list form. It almost looks like tweets, if you will, one at a time underneath each other. And then from there, you can click in to view more information and see if you are, interested in the role or not, and then express your interest there. So to me, I would say the experience is better, not only because you get those text message or email notifications. So it's like real time connecting with your audience to let them know that you are actively seeking opportunities for them. But then once they go to the domain where they can see all of the opportunities and express interest, it's very simple to do, and it's pretty transparent in what the offer is.
And the candidate can determine, they can decide if they would rather have text messages or email or neither or both, right? And they can choose how they want to be communicated with.
Of course, yeah, of course.
All right, so what about this though? What if the candidate is already working at one of the agency's clients? What happens then?
So I would assume that if a candidate is already working at one of the agency's clients, they wouldn't want to be sent more job opportunities because you want to finish the assignment first. So any candidate who is marked as placed as their status on the candidate record in Bullhorn will no longer receive notifications, will actually have a disabled login. So anytime they use the credentials that in the past allowed them to get into their dashboard, it'll say cannot enter until you finish your placement. But they will still retain their account ownership, if you will, inside of VisiBull.
Okay, so really the candidate doesn't really lose any functionality, because if they're actively looking for a job, if they're not working, or they're working somewhere for a different agency or different employer, they can have all the benefits of being able to see all their jobs in one place. But if they are working for the agency is not going to be cannibalizing their own working staff to fill new orders. Okay.
Yes.
So I think that's good. So let's switch over to the client side. I know this is an add-on feature, but let's talk about how the client experience is improved with an agency that uses VisiBull.
Okay, I think it's twofold. So for one, as you mentioned earlier on this call, that there are a lot of ways in which agencies receive information for job orders. It could be a client emailing them, calling them, texting them. If the client dashboard is enabled, they have the ability to see the same post job form that an agency user would when they're connecting to the ATS. So instead of emailing you for you to go in and enter this information on behalf of your client, the client can submit it directly. And based on those keywords, it'll initiate the same VisiBull search in your ATS and automate the notifications and interest gauging.
So that's interesting. So they basically have their own agency branded dashboard that they can log into, and they can actually post a job, see responses to that job, and kind of manage that all in one place. What if they do that like on a Friday night at 10 o'clock at night when most agencies are closed? Can they still go in and do that? Like, what happens then?
So they can, and I think that's great for the client agency relationship, because it's almost like they have their own dedicated like AI recruiter, if you will, their own robo recruiter working for
I
them.
like it.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's play that out. So a client logs into their dashboard. They've got the client dashboard feature, and they post a job 10 o'clock on Friday, looking for office manager, right? No recruiters are there. Recruiters won't come back until Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. What happens behind the scenes, and then what does the recruiter see when they get to their office 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday?
So the process would be very similar to what we were mentioning earlier. It would identify all the candidates in the list that are qualified based on the resume keyword text search string matching. And then it would send out the notifications in which all those candidates can respond either interested or not. And then from there, when the recruiter comes back on Monday from a job posted Friday at 10 p.m., they're going to be learning not only about a new job order that they're going to be servicing, but they'll already have a list of people most likely that they can send resumes over to their client for.
Nice. Now, I think that's an important distinction, though. So no resumes actually get submitted to the client without the recruiter approval, right? So like everyone that opts in and says, yes, I'm interested in this, they're kind of left in a short list or a hold status until the recruiter can actually do whatever quality vetting criteria that the agency has for their client, right? And then it's the recruiter that actually submits the candidate over, either using whatever method they prefer, if they don't have the dashboard, or they would just hit submit and it would automatically send it through to the client dashboard if they had that feature enabled. Is that right?
That's correct. So just because a candidate expresses interest doesn't mean we necessarily want to make that decision on your behalf and send them to your client automatically. So once the recruiter comes into the office on Monday, like you said, there are two scenarios. If you don't opt to use the client dashboard, go by whatever process you traditionally use to share the information of your candidates with your client. If you do use the client dashboard, then you can just change their status to client submission on the job order in the submissions tab. And then from there, your client will receive a notification saying that there are new candidates for them to review in VisiBull. Now, when the client logs into VisiBull, they just select the job order associated with those clients that they had logged, candidates rather, sorry. And when they click view, they will have a list of all the candidates and with information from their resume for them to review whether or not they want to accept or reject those candidates.
Okay, though, but what about, couldn't they just take the candidate then? Like, how, if they see that you submitted a resume and it says, Larry Gallo, and it's got all this contact information, like, who's to say But
Um,
hopefully the relationship's strong enough where they're just going to, go through the agency. But who's to say they don't just call Larry Gallo directly and hire him and kind of poach him?
So, good question. I guess it depends on the relationship, like you said. We do have a setting that can be enabled in our backend where if you don't want any contact information or personal information in which a scenario like that would be possible, visible to your client, we have what's called a blind submission. So let's say it was me being submitted to you to review, Dan. Instead of seeing Stephen Popovich, my phone number, and my last few jobs and work experience, you'll see candidate one, and then you'll see your agency's information. So if they were to contact it, it goes to you, but then you'll see the real last few work experiences.
Got it. Okay. So you have, so the agency has the option if they want to do blind submission, or not. They can choose to do that based on the relationship with the clients. Okay.
True, yeah,
I think that's pretty great. And so kind of the last question I want to ask, because I've been doing this a long time, and I know anytime you get a software, there's always customization and configuration, and it's got like a learning curve and whatnot. So if somebody out there watching this today is like, hey, I would like to try VisiBull, like they sign up for it, they can subscribe to it right on the website, VisiBull.App. Once they sign up for it, like what's the process? Like how quick and easy is it for them to actually have it up and running? And like, what would you say the learning curve is?
It's pretty quick. What I would recommend is scheduling a call with me, and I would kind of take you through what the next steps would look like. But outside, like maybe a 15 to 30-minute consultation call, just getting to know you and your operation and explaining how we're going to work together. The actual implementation process is relatively short. There are a few pieces of information we need to tie our system to your ATS and Bullhorn. But as long as you provide those, or you might have to ask Bullhorn for them if you don't have REST API user credentials. But once we have that information, I enter it into our system, I connect, make the connection. It'll be set up within a day or two.
Okay. I think that's pretty great. And the learning curve, like you think it's like I've seen it, it's pretty intuitive. And if you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet, go check out the link to see the demo. But I mean, it's pretty intuitive, right? But you think it's pretty easy for people to learn this and get using it right away?
I think it's extremely easy. I mean, we kept it to the bare bones, the bare minimum, exactly what you want, not things that you don't need included. So there's a button to post a job, and then there'll be a form for you to enter all the information. Very straightforward, self-explanatory. When that's done, then it's sent to Bullhorn. Or if you're coming in to view the jobs you matched for, you click the one that you want to see. All the information's there. Interested, not interested. It is very, very straightforward. And I think everybody will have a great user experience entering into the system. There will be very limited questions. But if for some reason you ever do have a question, I'm always here.
I appreciate that, man. I truly think you've built something special here with VisiBull. I'm excited to share it with the staffing industry, and hopefully we can save a lot of recruiters' times and actually help agencies fill more open roles with people that they've already paid to get into their database. And I'm excited for this, man. So last question is how do they find out more about VisiBull, and how do they get it?
Um, I would say click the link. We definitely have some videos for you to explore a bit more. Um, Log your session with me. If you have access to my calendar, feel free to get on there. We'll do a call. I can give you a further walkthrough of the system if need be, show you some examples, learn more about your operation, and honestly just get to know you because I like to know the people that I work with. And then once we get that going, if you're interested and we move forward, just need a few pieces of information from your system. You'll be up in a few days.
I love it, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and sharing this cool new tool with the staffing world. And definitely check it out, y'all.
Yes, VisiBull.App, support at VisiBull.App with any questions. Get my calendar. Dan, please share my links with everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.